Med school isn't particularly unique in the sense that it requires a lot of dedication and hard work over a long period of time. Lots of degrees require this, lots of paths in life require this, and so you're going to get knocked down multiple times a year. At least I do. And when that's happening, you need to know how to pick yourself up. Given that med itself, like these other degrees, is already difficult, it's like fighting an uphill battle. And if you're at 10% of your best, if you're in a slump, you're no longer just fighting an uphill battle, you're fighting one with a blindfold on, your hands tied behind your backs, and weights around your legs. Because of this, it's vital to know how to pick yourself back up when you're in a slump. This video is going to be what I've learned throughout my medical degree and throughout life in general about how to get myself back on track when I'm feeling not the best. And the good news is, by watching it, you've already started with one of the first and most important steps, which is to get yourself thinking about what it is you need to do and what sort of plan you can create. Welcome back to Aussie Med Shoots. My name's Francis. I'm a final year medical student at Sydney University. This channel has videos about my advice for med school, getting into it, and medicine in general. If you haven't already, please subscribe, leave a comment if there's something that you want to add to the video or if you have a request for future videos, and like the video of course if you like it. Maybe somewhat ironically, I decided to make this video at the start of my new block in ED, which involves some pretty long hours in the afternoon for me and on the weekends. So you start around 2 p.m. and then you finish around 11 p.m, come home. Usually I need to unwind a little bit, and I was getting to sleep later and later and later. And so my study fell behind, these videos stopped getting made, and I found myself in exactly the situation that I wanted to make this video to help myself out in. So the tips I'm going to give you throughout this are things that I'm applying right now and things that I've applied in the past to help myself get back on track when I fall off. Really, it doesn't matter what you're doing, whether it's med school, another degree, career life in general, whatever it is, you're going to need some amount of motivation to spark any endeavor that you want to attempt. If it's an endeavor that doesn't require much effort, then you're not going to need a lot of motivation. However, if it's one that requires a lot of effort, you do. So I suppose already with that, you can imagine that if you can reduce the effort that a task might require, you don't need as much motivation for it. And if you can't change that, maybe you can motivate yourself more. But essentially, any endeavor that you want to attempt is going to be a lot easier if you're in a physically and mentally stable place. And so the very start of getting yourself back on track, aside from beginning to think of what it is you need to do, should be on improving your physical and mental health in the areas that aren't doing so well. Now, physical and mental health are videos in and of themselves. In fact, it's the entire degree that I'm studying, so you can imagine that I can't cover all of that in this video. But the good news is, they're general tips that most people already know. Things like improving your diet, getting good sleep, things like exercising regularly. For mental health, it can be a bit harder, but things like meditation, relaxation. For some people, a lot of people, most people probably, socializing is also pretty relevant. I will, of course, eventually make videos on probably all of these things, but for today's video, I'm going to move on. Once you've started to improve your physical and mental health in ways that don't require a lot of effort, so things like getting a little extra sleep, maybe eating a few more vegetables a day, exercising 10 minutes more a day. The next step is to turn these things into habits. Maybe this isn't super obvious, but you can't just say you're going to do something every day and then it gets done. You can't just say, I'm going to study 5 hours a day because that's the sort of person I want to be. That's what I need to do to achieve success. I think it's a great mindset, but even if you can manage to do that initially, you can't keep it up long term just by telling yourself you're really dedicated to doing this. If you want to build good habits, you first need to build good traits. And here's the thing about good traits. I like to think of every action you do as something that gains you experience, like a video game character. You get experience towards different traits. So every time you exercise, you're getting experience towards your strength trait or your cardiovascular fitness trait. Every time that you hit the snooze button though, you're getting more experience towards your hitting the snooze button trait. And so as you level these traits up, those things get easier and better. So while you're exercising is a very straightforward, easy example of you get stronger and fitter. If you hit the snooze button, you're making hitting the snooze button easier every single time. Now that's not to say that you need to never hit the snooze button ever again. You need to always 100% of the time do the good thing every single time. And if you miss it one time, too bad, you'll never be able to keep that up. Or if you hit the snooze button, well, hit it today, I'm never going to be able to consistently never hit it. Don't think of bad habits as completely ruining the chance of keeping up your good habits long term. Rather than think of them as a failure, think of them more as one step back. all you've got to do is the right thing the next time and you're back to where you were. It's much better to maintain a habit 99% of the time long term than 100% of the time for a week or a month or even a year. And coming back to why I'm talking about this, it's because if you build these good traits, you are no longer just thinking of the goal you want to achieve. Maybe that's getting a really good grade on a test. Maybe that's being the doctor that can answer all these weird trivia questions, or improving your emotional intelligence even. You're no longer thinking of just that end goal. Instead, you're thinking of building traits so that you become a person that achieves these things. I think I'm paraphrasing Einstein when I say, don't aim to become a person of success, aim to become a person of value. Become the person that achieves the things you want to achieve, rather than just thinking of, how can I achieve that thing? So good health leads to being able to build good traits much easier, which then allows you to build these habits that then take you towards the goals that you want to achieve. But here's the thing, if you're like me, you get into these moods. Sometimes without anything going wrong, you're just like, one morning, it's just too hard to get out of bed, and you're thinking, I'm never gonna be that, whatever it might be, the top scoring student, the doctor that's able to really understand everyone's emotional struggle perfectly, whatever it might be. If you're staring up at the moon when you're down here on the ground and you haven't even brushed your teeth yet, that's too big of a step. You can't be aiming for that. You need to be thinking of just your next step. If you're at the bottom, if you've dropped yourself down to where getting out of bed is just a struggle, or even if you're at a higher level where you've done a couple hours of study, but doing that extra 30-60 minutes, that's pretty tough. Or even if you're studying a few hours a day, or things are going really well in that area, but you're struggling in other areas and you just don't know how to get yourself to the very end where you want to be, stop thinking of just the end. Think of just the next step. It brings us back to that principle of motivation and effort. If you're thinking about the amount of effort it takes to get from step 1 to step 100, that's a lot. That's really hard to motivate yourself to get started on that. But if you just think about the amount of effort required to get yourself from step 1 to step 2, instead of getting yourself to study 8 hours a day, getting yourself out of bed to brush your teeth, if you think of that first step, that's a lot easier to motivate yourself to do. Once you've done that, guess what? Now making your bed because you're already up, teeth are brushed, that's not such a hard step either. But if you're at that middle stage of, I've studied a few hours, I really don't know how to get myself to do another whole hour of study, instead of focusing on trying to get another hour done, just focus on, hey, I just want to get this next question done, or I just want to get this next 5 minutes done, this next 15 minutes done. Think of things in smaller increments that are achievable to you, that require less effort. Now, motivation will be another video. This video really was a lot more on minimizing effort and making things easier. But I think there's a lot to be said on this subject, and nonetheless, I wanted to keep this video as brief as possible. I think I've been faster than my previous videos. We'll see what this turns out to be. But if you have requests for other videos, please let me know. Otherwise, until next time, all the best.